The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
You want the good news, you want the bad news?
I don't like either one of those options.
Your words are super wise, man.
You are a prophet. You deserve a prophet.
You know, we're not doing therapy here.
But you're a psychologist.
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
I just never thought I would call your show.
All right, first of all, my advice to you is going to be to shut your mouth.
I like that. I can do that. That's doable.
Does that comfort you?
No.
You're my second favorite Italian person.
I hope you're going to agree with me.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I just was calling to let you know that you are right.
This should not be happening.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Very nice. It's a privilege to be with you. Some 20, how many years, Andrew? 22, 23, something like that? I was shocked when they approached me, when the radio people approached me. Well, about 6 months out of college. Yeah, 22 years ago, 6 months out of college. Oh, wait a minute. My nose is hitting the microphone as it is growing. The program is call-in program. You are the callers. I am the callee. I receive your situations, your circumstances, your frustrations. I absorb them. And I attempt to give you some kind of direction, some kind of guidance, something, not a therapy, but a thought, a nugget, bit here and there, a piffling of suggestion that may be workable, may be helpful. As you could tell from our previous bumper right there was about 50%. About 50% of the time people think it's brilliant. The other 50% of the time they wonder why they even bothered calling in. At least that's what it sounded like from the stuff that Andrew picked out. It's one of those polling things where he misrepresented some of the gratitude that comes across in this program. No, but he does great stuff, and I ever appreciate the man. 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal is the number to call to get onto the program. Question, comment, situation, circumstance, about life, from conception to eternity. Obviously, the sliver that we call earthly existence, and it is a sliver. It is an infinitesimally small sliver that we call life, is where we focus most of our attention. But in fact, if you think about it, as long as this life is, rationally, it doesn't affect us emotionally this way, but rationally, you got to say it is smaller than a speck in eternity. See, we can't wrap our heads around that. We can't. We look at what happens here. We look at the tragedies here. We look at the struggles here. And it's very real to us. We're immersed in it. But yet, our souls go on and on and on and on and on. Father Larry Richards draws this analogy to infinity. He says, suppose you were to take a grain of sand from a beach in the United States, and you could walk to Mount Everest, halfway around the world, and you dropped that grain of sand off. And you walked back, you got another grain of sand, headed back to Mount Everest, dropped that grain of sand off. And you did this until all the grains of sand on those eastern seacoast beaches in the U.S. are gone because you took one at a time. He says, eternity would be just beginning. Yow. Yow. All right. 877-57 equals the number. Mark Twain supposedly said this. When I was 14, my father was so ignorant, I could barely stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man learned in 7 years. Translation, how much he learned in 7 years. Here's the question that quote prompts. Has your thinking changed since age 14? How about since age 21? At that time, you were pretty sure the way you look at things, right? Your grown-up views about things. Yeah, you're 21, you know. What's changed since? Probably a whole lot. You just don't look at things now as you did then. Whether it's religion, whether it's politics, whether it's life, whether it's emotions, whether it's people, whether it's relationships. Your thinking has radically shifted. What changed it? Was it reality? Was it personal experience? How about making mistakes? Listening to other people, even your old man? Your thinking changes all the time. So when people say to me, I can't help it, that's the way I feel. I'm tempted to say, well wait, how did your thinking change from 20 years ago about all kinds of stuff? Obviously, you felt a certain way then. How come you don't feel that way now? Because slowly, actually sometimes getting hit with a 2x4, you realize the way you were thinking is not good. It doesn't help you. Causes problems for you. Makes you feel bad. Creates emotions that you don't like. You realize that. And you set about the process of saying, I don't want to think like that anymore. I want to accept that I can't change that person. For years, I felt terrible because that person was a certain way. And I couldn't do anything about it. But I don't feel so terrible anymore. Why? Well, I guess I've just accepted that I can't do anything about it. How'd you accept it? What did you do? It wasn't magic. You changed your thinking. You kept reinforcing to yourself, I can't do anything about that. In the beginning, you thought you could. And then later on, maybe you realized you couldn't, but you were upset, devastated, frustrated because you couldn't. Because you so wanted to change that other person. You were desperate to change that other person. There's got to be a way to change that other person. And then over time you realize, no, I can't. I tried. Every way I knew how. I even called that dude on the radio, Roy Ganoli. He said, are you sure you can change that person? So you came to accept to your own peace that you can't do anything about that situation. Well, obviously, your emotions changed with it. You're not as disgruntled. You're not as unhappy. You're not as frustrated. You're not as ill at ease or lacking peace about the whole scenario. Because as you analyzed it, as you thought about it, as you reassessed it, ever so slowly, your thinking changed. And as your thinking changed, so did the feelings. They're not as burdensome anymore. You're not as hurt. You're not as devastated. Your thinking changed. It does that all the time. Not just from when you were 14 to now. It does it from last year. When I was in the evangelical world, I was pretty certain that the way they looked at things, their particular theology was pretty solid, pretty correct. Well, as I started to look at things, church history, church logic, church thinking, church theology, my thinking changed. Yeah, there's a lot of beauty in the evangelical world, but I found the Catholic Church made more sense to me. My thinking changed. That happens all the time. If you've got a kid who's 23 years old and flat out doesn't want to hear anything about religion, and you've been beating yourself up, where'd you fail? How'd you do this? What happened? You thought you were doing right. Maybe you weren't doing right. Maybe you missed something. Should have prayed the rosary in Aramaic, not English. But over a couple of years, you became more at peace with the situation because you recognized, one, in fact, you did what you thought was best, however imperfect and human, and two, that you're not responsible for how he thinks. You can't be. He doesn't want to hear anything you have to say. If he did, maybe you could try to reach him, but he doesn't want to hear it. Not at all. Zero, zip, nada. And ultimately, your feelings of self-defeat, self-deprecation, started to fade because your thinking changed. Feelings do not occur in a vacuum. They are fueled or tapered by the way we look at things. 877-573-7825. Want to hear from you? 877-57-EQUAL. Lines are open, so come on in. Dr. Ray.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
CMF Curo is a Catholic healthcare ministry providing families nationwide with a better solution centered around whole health, spirit, mind, and body. Our members share their medical burdens within a faith-filled community. At CMF Curo, our members have access to a spiritual director, concierge services, and other health and spiritual resources. Find out if CMF Curo is a better solution for your family. Visit mycatholichealthcare.com. That's mycatholichealthcare.com.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray Guarendi, host of The Doctor Is In. Ave Maria Radio has been putting out fabulous Catholic teaching, but the equipment we've got is aged. Like me, needs a lot of help. Some of the stuff is just hard to replace anymore. If you go to AveMariaRadio.net, please, for a donation for the equipment to reach much farther. You're not just donating, you're broadcasting hope.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
877-573-7825. 877-57-EQUAL. Let's see what I got going on here. A couple of things. Heading down to North Carolina. Let me see where that parish is. That's this Saturday. Huntersville, North Carolina. Did he give me the St. Mark's. St. Mark's in Huntersville, North Carolina this Saturday. Then next week, good Lord permitting, on 13th and 14th of August. The 13th, Plymouth, Michigan, Our Lady of Good Counsel. And the 14th, Maumee Indoor Theater. That's obviously in Maumee. and it's indoor, and it's a theater. Both of those are going to be a bit of a divergence from the things I typically present. They are, well, they are comedic sessions. Comedic sessions. That's right, they want me to do comedy. So, love to have you there. They're free, and there's pizza, and I've been finding out that the pizza's free too. So I'll have no idea whether you came for me or for the pizza. None whatsoever. But either way, be glad that you're there. Oh, this is a kind of a neat call. I hope she doesn't drop, because then I would be tempted to say, you picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille, from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hi, Lucille.
Hi, Dr. Ray.
Thanks for the call, dear.
Yes. So I'm not sure if this is really a psychology question, but I think there's some connection. I'm a non-Catholic, and I've been studying the Catholic faith for a matter of years and years at this point. I'm just a reader. I like to read, and so I feel like I've really looked into all the arguments for Catholicism, and I'm about, I'd say, like 80 to 90% of the way there as far as agreeing with the teachings that I've read about. But there's kind of this final threshold where I'm just feeling like, I'm not convinced. And I think I can picture myself as a Catholic, like living the Catholic life sounds great. But there's this disconnect where I'm like, I know I wouldn't be a good Catholic because I don't believe everything. Now, I know some cradle Catholics who believe a lot less than I do, and like they're living the Catholic life, and I get really jealous of them. But I'm like, could I join the Catholic Church at this point, not believing everything 100%, or is that not even advisable? And, just how do I get over that hump? I think it's spiritual, but there's also a little psychology there. I wanted to hear what you would say.
Well, thank you, dear. I appreciate that. And I believe I have the answer for you. An answer that you may not have been wrestling with. I wrestled with it because I left the church for 8 years. And so I wrestled with this. I would say it's probably relatively the rule. I hate to say this. Maybe in Western Catholic expression that a lot of people don't agree with what the church teaches in everything. They may say, well, I agree with about 90% of it, but the other 10%, I'll tell you what, I just can't buy that, or I don't see the reasoning behind that, or that just seems so out of touch with the culture, or that doesn't make any sense scripturally. So they all have their objections. Here is where it's flawed. You have been looking at this, and first of all, I got to admire you here, Lucille, because what you're doing is something very few people do. You have a deliberate searching for the truth. You're saying, if Jesus Christ established what was to be the Catholic Church for all time, then I want to check it out. I know many faith-filled Christians of other traditions who won't check it out. They don't want to. They're satisfied with where they are. They don't need to check it out. They're perfectly fine. But you dug. Okay, so my compliments there, dear lady. Now, here's, I think, that'll get you past the block. You ready? Once you decide, through your understanding of the evidence of history, now, you can't argue with history, that the Catholic Church was set up by Christ to speak in His name for all time, then the stuff you don't agree with, the stuff you say, I don't understand that, seems, that's a block, man, I can't get over that one. You're in a position where you say, if I recognize their authority to do that, then I accept that teaching even though I don't agree with it. There's the difference. Let me draw a parallel. Are you a mom?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's say that you have a teenager, 14-year-old. And the 14-year-old comes to you and says, Ma, I got to tell you, I respect you as a mom. And I think that you're smarter than I am. So what I'm going to do is this. When I agree with you, I'm going to obey you. When I don't, I reserve the right to me to obey you or not. Now, Mom, I respect your authority about 90% of the time. And the other 10% of the time, sorry. But you should feel grateful, Mom, because I'm 90% obedient. Most kids are not 90% obedient for their parents. Now, Lucille, would you say that's an obedient child? No, because he arrogates to himself the decision. He decides whether he's going to agree with Mom or Dad, even if it's only 10% of the time. If he says, sorry, Ma, I just don't agree with your curfew. I think it's ridiculous, and I'm not buying it. I'm not doing it. What he's done is he's placed himself above his mother. I make the final decision, and I'll obey you if I agree, and I agree 90% of the time, so I'll obey you. That's kind of where a lot of people are with the Catholic Church. They'll say, I think she's 90% of the time, 80% of the time. Yeah, okay. But there's just some stuff that I don't agree with, and if I don't agree with it, I'm not joining. But what they do see is they then, by doing that, Lucille, they make themselves the authority. I am the authority. I don't believe this contraception thing. I don't buy it. Okay? I believe a woman should be allowed to choose whether to terminate that pregnancy in her womb. This whole thing about divorce and remarriage, where's the Catholic Church come from with that one? So most of the time it's these moral issues. And people say, Is that where you're at?
It's not the moral things for me so much. I'm definitely tracking with all that. So, but yes, I'm just at that 10% point. I feel like.
Give me a 10%. Give me a big 10% for you.
Well, for example, I've come a long way in my understanding of devotion to Mary. I can definitely see how it is good and, not evil or anything like that. But it's just the taking a step further to being required and certain, beliefs about Mary being required. That's where it is for me. Like, I just can't quite believe that it's required.
Okay, so in other words, my guess would be those beliefs are that she was without sin and that she was assumed into heaven. Those are the two big ones, right?
Yes.
And that she was a perpetual virgin?
That one I'm, for some reason, fine with. But yeah, it's just kind of the other two.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Two things. One, I think if you explore the history and the reasoning behind it, it would make more sense to you. But even at that, even if you don't, even if you simply say, you know what, I can't wrap my head around that one. If you're at the point where you say, the church, I'm convinced, speaks for Christ, then I'm going to accept what she says about these parts of our veneration for Mary. I'll accept it. Okay? I don't necessarily understand it. It's like the Eucharist. Many people don't understand the Eucharist. I mean, they see a white wafer. They think, wow, wait a minute, come on, man. How could that white wafer be the God of the universe? Get out of here. What are you talking about? But the church has always believed that all the way back to the apostles. So you just say, well, okay, I will accept that on faith. Lucille, you keep looking, honey. I just think if you are open, you do this. You ask God. You say, look, I don't understand some things. Help me to know what I'm supposed to know. would have loved to have talked a lot longer with Lucille. I could have spent the whole time because I know what she's going through. I went through it myself. But Mary from Portland. Portland or someplace else because it said Portland or. Andrew, what? Portland or. Well, I don't get... Oh, okay. I got you. All right, Mary's there. Mary says, I'm a little too sensitive. I absorb stuff that from other people is getting to me. Hi, Mary.
Am I on the air?
You certainly are. You better just watch what you say, girl.
Okay. Yeah, I don't usually talk about my issues in public, but I'm just so curious. So, first of all, I love your show, and I love your take on things. But when 2020 hit, I got really black-pilled about a lot of stuff, if you understand the term. Especially, with child trafficking and now with this whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict going on and what's happening. And I'm just finding that I'm almost traumatized by what I found out to a point where I don't think it's healthy. Is there such a thing as being too empathic? Or, what advice would you have for someone like
Well, Mary, you can use the word empathic, but I think what you're really saying is this, I absorb this stuff. I hear the sadness, the tragedy, the struggles, the way life has always been. If you know anything about human history, you actually know we probably live in one of the safer times in human history. And we live in a time that's probably more comfortable, by far, in human history. And we live in a time where our lifespan is a lot longer than in human history. But what happens is, also in human history, you only knew what was going on in your immediate world. You didn't know what was going on in Israel. You had no idea what was going on in Tennessee when they had that flood. You didn't know any of this stuff. And there have been researchers who have said, can humans absorb this tsunami of ugliness? And they conclude, no, we can't. We're not wired for it. It keeps us in a state of agitation. So you're right. It isn't a matter, Mary, I think, of you being too sensitive. I think it's a matter of too much of that stuff. So what do you do about it, right? What do you do about it? You got any ideas?
Well, yeah. I saw my dad, before he died, get eaten up by bad news. And, I never wanted to turn out like that. The problem is I live by myself, and my situation doesn't even allow me to have pets. And so my only company, if you will, is podcasters. And I listen to a lot of relevant radio, which is lovely. That's been such a gift to me. But I find myself gravitating toward finding out what's happening, just because my heart just goes out to all these children, especially. And it's hard for me to say no and turn it off. And I suppose if I turned it all off and didn't listen to it, my life would be much more at peace.
That's definitely a factor, Mary. That is definitely a factor. You simply can't absorb all that. You can't.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So you decide. Yeah. But you recognize this, and this is the reality of our existence. It has always been this way. Always. Life has been rough.
So rough. I just can't.
Well, let me give you.
God is.
Well, okay, and that's the age old question. Where is God in all this suffering? But let me just give you a statistic that will, I think, bring into stark relief how life has always been tough and even tougher than it is now. Do you know what the mortality rate was for children under age 5 in most of human history?
No.
50%. Half of kids died before age 5.
Well, you know, Dr. Ray, it's not even the death. Death, you know, we're all going to heaven, and I don't have a problem with death, but it's the way these children are dying.
Well, here's what I'm saying. You're aware of the way these children are dying. That's what it is. It's brought into your living room. It's brought into your eyesight. Of course. That's the difference. That's why. What I would suggest, Mary, is 2 things. One, it's going to be a lot harder to change your attitude about this by just simply willing it and saying, okay, dear Lord, I'm leaving it all up to you. You're going to sort it out in the end. I have no idea how to sort it all out. I have no idea how you'll make it work, but I believe you will. So for me, that's the best. I don't know if you heard me in the beginning of the program, but I talked about this life being an absolute infinite sliver. Infinitely small sliver. Well, that's what it is. So we look at this life and we say, I can't figure this out. Why would this be like this? And I want to go, yeah, but we don't see anywhere near the whole of existence like God does. I have no idea how he makes it even, how he straightens it out. But he does. I believe he does. So that's one thing for you I think you need to latch onto, which is you don't see it all. All you see is right in front of your eyes, and you're thinking, I can't see. Why do children suffer? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I said something on the radio the other day, and I got skewered so bad by this guy. He told me I should be off the air. I said...
This was on your show?
Oh, yeah. I said...
Oh, I missed that.
When children die, and again, I said this was not my belief. I said it's just a thought that God may have taken them to heaven because that was the perfect time to take them to heaven.
Yeah.
And they went nuts.
Oh, I believe that.
Well, they went nuts on me. Yeah, they got to go nuts on Father Spitzer, too, because he said kind of the same thing. They went nuts on me. Yeah. They said, how dare you? How dare you say that? Because you're going to say that to a parent who's lost a child? I said, no. I'm saying I don't know how God works it out. But I do know he works it out for the best. Stay there, Mary. I'm going to come back. I'm on a roll. I'm not going to let this foolish break shut me up. And are you trying to settle me down? Is that what you're doing with that music? I need the Requiem for the Common Man. Ta-da! During the break, I got a text from Jim Carroll. He has been the many, many years standing brains behind the beautiful expansion of Spirit Catholic Radio all throughout Nebraska, even a little further north. He said, you will never let a foolish break shut you up. And I said, I lost my mojo. Mary, you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, 2 things, my dear. 1, you got to decide a diet. If you're saying, I can't take this, then you better eat less of it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, embrace the idea. Change your feeling by changing your thinking, which is, I believe the Lord is infinitely good, infinitely just. Therefore, I have no idea Hell, he'll take care of all this. But I believe he will. In a way that I can't even fathom. So once you do that, yes, there's definitely tragedy, there's pain, there's unbelievable stuff. But you feel powerless when you hear about it. I just can't do anything about it. There's nothing I can do. There's suffering. This is terrible. Yeah, because it's not up to you.
Mm-hmm.
You help where you can in your immediate world. But I've always said this. I said, for all of human history, the tragedy that you knew about was within arm's reach of your life. You didn't even know what was going on 8 miles away.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Alrighty, my dear.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
You are
and
more...
I'll start figuring out that diet.
You better. Right. I do. I limit myself to no more than an hour a day. I mean, I have to do it because of this program, but I'm not going to immerse myself in that stuff.
Yeah.
Much of it I can't do anything about.
Right.
Heck, much of my own life I can't do anything about, you know?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear. Thanks for the call.
Thank you so much.
All right, hon. Deborah with an A-H, I think that's how it's spelled, from New York. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Dr. Ray.
What you got for me?
I'm not really sure. This last woman, Mary, is she from Portland on the East Coast or Portland on the West Coast?
Oh, good. I didn't even think about that. I have no idea. I think it was Portland, Oregon. Said O-R. That's why I said Portland
so
or.
West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some good friends out that way.
So what's this? All I see is this little brief thing: teenager versus young teen. What do you mean by that?
You started the show with this thing about the teenager deciding the mother was, wrong, so they were going to do what they were going to want to do anyway. And then, as you gave us an example, the older person, this young adult, would probably decide that their father, who finally knew something, would come around. That was my point of the point of your opening.
I think I see your parallel. I said, when you're 14, when you're 21, you think you know it all. Right. And you look at other people and you go, well, that authority, I don't buy it. Okay. But as you get older, you start to look at it a little more broadly, maybe a little more maturely, and you say, okay, all right, I got that now. I can see where they're coming from. I can see why my mom was wise. And the parallel is to the Catholic Church. When you're young and you don't kind of like the way the church says you got to go to Mass, or you're not supposed to have sex before marriage, or just different things you're thinking with your young mind, it's like, well, I don't buy that. I don't know. The culture doesn't say that. And then when you get older, a certain percentage of us realize, the church knew what she was talking about. Kind of like when you mature to know what your parents thought and how it made sense. So I think I see your parallel.
Really smart all the time.
Yeah, is that what you were alluding to?
Yes, very much so.
Well, I like it. I never thought of it that way. So help me for seeing that. I appreciate that.
Well, it was wonderful to give this time to talk to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
I look forward to meeting you in Buffalo.
Oh, that'll be so neat. Come on, show up. Say,
so too.
I'm the Deborah that called you. Just come right up. We love interacting with the audience. We have a ball. It's a great time.
I bet you and Father Larry do.
Well, he's going to be there the whole night on the 19th, and I got some bits planned, my opening bits that I just thought of, and I think they're going to be one of the better bits we've ever done in the opening of the show. So we call them our bits.
Good.
Yeah. So you come up and you say hi, Deborah. We'd love to meet you.
Oh, that's wonderful, Dr. Ray.
Thanks, honey. Thanks for the call. See you then.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. Bye. Andrew, should I take Pat? She's been waiting patiently. Okay, take Pat because we've got a soft break here. Hi, Pat from Ithaca, New York. How are you?
Fine, Dr. Ray. It's good to hear you again. Just a comment, I think it was Mary who was wondering why did babies, children die so young. I listened to an interview that Chris Stefanik gave with Carlo Acutis' mom, and who is soon to be beatified. He died, I think, at age 15 of leukemia. He knew it. He was such a prayerful child. And his mom was agnostic before all of this. And Chris Stefanik asked Carlo Acutis' mom, how did you feel about him dying at such a young age? And she said, well, God probably protected him from or she prayed a lot about this, that perhaps God protected him from something that may have happened in the future. So if you look upon that, it's hard to think of it that way, but you never know what any child could do in the future that would have been compromised for their eternal life. I mean, this life is a good one. It's sad when things like that happen, but it's the eternal life that she just stressed that. It was beautiful.
It's interesting because that is a fair thought. That is a fair thought. It is not meant to make someone trivialize tragedy and death. It is not meant to say, you should be able to deal with this because this is the better way. No, not at all.
No, she went through it. No, I know. You're right.
Now, is she still an agnostic?
No, Carlo's mom, as a Catholic, she grew up Catholic as far as receiving communion, never thought of it as a real presence, but she had a complete turnaround when Carlos Acutis said, Mom, I want to go to Mass every day. What? Well, I guess I'll go with you. And she has totally come around. I mean, she was on this interview with Chris Stefanik. It was just beautiful. It addressed something about you were saying there. So I thought I'd
fascinating. It's fascinating, Pat. This young man sought God with all his soul, but yet he was not in an environment that guided him in that direction.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she was an agnostic. A Catholic, baptized Catholic, but that was it.
Agnostic is really a practicing atheist. An agnostic says, yeah, could be, could not be, I don't know. But in 99.99% of the cases, it has absolutely no impact on how they live their lives and how they seek God.
Well, she certainly changed when she had Carlos, and yeah. So I just wanted to add that, and I love your show, and I hope I can get to Buffalo. It's a little bit of a travel.
How far is Ithaca from Buffalo?
Well, we live sometimes in a different state, and I don't think we'll be in New York State that time, but we'll give it a try. We'll see what we can do.
Pat,
I'd love to see you.
You can't leave the state just to avoid the show.
I'm not doing that.
What kind of selfishness is that?
Well, it's work. Duty calls. But anyway, I surely will try. I'd love to see
Thank you, dear. I appreciate it. You come anytime. Okay. I'll talk to you.
God,
bye.
God bless. Thanks.
All righty. Now it's break time.
Don't let everyone else get all the great advice. Call now to speak with Dr. Ray.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com. The Heart of the Interior Life with Elizabeth Jangle.
In the 11th rule of St. Ignatius of Loyola's 14 Rules for the Discernment of Spirits, St. Ignatius of Loyola invites us to consider the essential role of the virtue of humility in the reception of spiritual consolation. St. Ignatius is instructing us to maintain a particular disposition of heart in the reception of spiritual consolation, the disposition of a humble heart. Father Timothy Gallagher writes, For Ignatius, a humble heart is the rich spiritual soil from which all other virtues spring. A heart that is humble is a heart completely open to embrace God's call. Father Gallagher continues, When God's gift of love and spiritual consolation is accepted by a heart that remains at the same time Rooted in evangelical humility, a great and solid spiritual energy for growth is set free.
For more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray Guarendi, host of The Doctor Is In. Ave Maria Radio has been putting out fabulous Catholic teaching, but the equipment we've got is aged. Like me, needs a lot of help. Some of the stuff is just hard to replace anymore. If you go to AveMariaRadio.net, please, for a donation for the equipment to reach much farther. You're not just donating, you're broadcasting hope. That bass underneath it all. Thank you for joining me. Dr. Ray here. Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, as a couple of our callers alluded. So once again, I will make a cheap promotion for the TV show. I found out that the TV show season number 14 will start airing fresh episodes September 2nd on EWTN. We've got some great bits, great shows. Well, see, that's not humble. I don't mean it that way. I mean the audiences. For example, we did 4 shows down at Ave Maria University, and the kids were fantastic. The questions they asked, their interaction, that's what I meant. All right. The weak part of the show is the host, but the audience can compensate for that. So if you'd like to be in the audience in Buffalo when we come August 19th and 20th, 5 and 7:15, both nights doing 2 shows, love to have you. Go to thestationofthecross.com, one big long word, and sign up. It's right there. Just sign up. You got to sign up so we have some sense of. And by the way, this is really critical. Please, if you do sign up, do what you can to be there. We had one time where we thought we had a pretty good sized audience, and 35% of them didn't show up. Now I'm thinking, okay, stuff happens. I can understand that. But I was wondering, because we tell the folks, we're counting on you. We're planning for that size audience. So, love to have you. You can come to 1, 2, 3, 4 shows if you want. And bring the kids. I talked to one of our guests yesterday, and they got 9 kids. All right, bring them. That'll fill up 10% of our audience right then and there. Get 3 homeschooling families, and you got 35 people. So, like to have you. A couple of final points about feelings. It's easy for people to get locked into the idea that my feelings rule me. That is how our culture talks. Pay attention to any kind of interview of someone, whether it's supposedly an expert or it's an everyday individual just being briefly interviewed about something. Count how many times they say, "How did you feel about that? What were your feelings on that?" Rather than, "What did you think about that?" Almost all, I'd say if the ratio is probably about 5 or 10 to 1. 5 or 10 to 1, at least. So how'd that make you feel when you heard that? The implication is, here comes the feeling, because it's a reflex. Something happened, or somebody said something, and you automatically feel a certain way. No. You got to think about what they said. You got to interpret it. You got to read it, and then the feeling happens. But we skip over that step every time. I see it all the time on these interview shows. These people are getting $42 million a year to ask somebody, "So how did you feel when they said that about you?" Rather than, "What was your reaction?" or "What did you think?" We don't do that. When I was in grad school, that's all we talked about was feelings. I thought it had something to do with my teeth. Your feelings. We are a culture that is obsessed with how you feel. And we ignore the idea that those feelings have underlying thoughts, the perception, the reading of a situation or of a person, and then the feeling follows. Very few feelings are automatic. Anger's automatic, Dr. A. No, not totally. When you get angry at something, if you actually analyze why you're so angry, you'd find there's feelings. Those feelings have thoughts underneath them. They shouldn't have done that. I don't deserve to be mistreated like that. I don't do that to them. That's not the way I wanted it to go. All thoughts. All thoughts. Fueling the feeling. Well, I feel like I have to go. I was thinking I was going to stay longer, but Andrew Kruchek told me you have to go, so I feel bad about that. But God gave us a brain. Use that brain to realize how infinitely important it is to walk with Him. Thank you for joining me.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.